Gotta talk some Tennessee news and Tennessee politics right now with our good friend Brandon Lewis, who is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can find out more of those stories at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today, my friend?
I'm great. Mela Kaliki Maka to you and your folks. That is Hawaiian for Merry Christmas.
Oh, okay. Great. Say it again. Mela Kaliki Waka?
Yeah, Mela Kaliki Maka.
Maka. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like he's got a leaker somewhere in the kitchen.
Well, more so the older I get. So.
Oh, man. So I wanted to talk to you about some conservative pieces of legislation that have already been filed for the next legislative session. We got Gino Bulso. You talked with him. I'm trying to get him on the show as well. He's put forward House Bill 26. It's entitled the Unborn Child Protection Act of 2025. Talk about that a little bit.
So one thing that's really important in Tennessee code is making certain that we define things a certain way because it has implications throughout the code. And his bill, House Bill 26, is the Unborn Child Protection Act of 2025, and it essentially reaffirms that human life begins at fertilization and that an unborn child is entitled to the full and equal protection of the laws that prohibit violence against any other person. We kind of know this to be true. If a woman carrying a child is killed, you're not only charged with the crime of the mother's passing, but also the child's. And the other thing that's going to make this even better is that it says a manufacturer, distributor, seller, or reseller of abortion-inducing drugs, which presently cause about 50% of all abortions across the United States, that if an unborn child were to die as a result of that being shipped in from out of state in Tennessee, that there would be course for the next of kin, either the father, the mother, the grandparents, etc., to sue for up to $5 million. And so often the biggest thing that really deters these evil corporations from trying to do what they do is to put stiff financial penalties and make the transaction unpalatable to them financially. And I think that is Gino's major purpose.
So what do you think about the chances of this passing? You know better than I would.
I think it's good, and I'll tell you why. You know, there are some things in Tennessee that don't really get much pushback. That there's not a huge pro-abortion lobby in Tennessee. There's just not. There's not a huge anti-Second Amendment lobby. Now, there is a huge anti-illegal immigration reform lobby. There's a huge education reform and school choice opposition group. But when it comes to abortion, I think that we do pretty darn well in this state. We do have some rhinos that continuously try to weaken the law. I have heard that the Tennessee Medical Association is going to bring some sort of law to weaken the abortion laws we've recently passed, which wouldn't surprise me. So there's always attacks from the corporations and the medical establishment in this way, but we'll have to just see what happens.
Yeah, and I know you've been talking a lot not only about this issue, but also the issue of illegal immigration and stopping the flow of illegal immigrants into the state of Tennessee. And you did an interview recently for your website with Representative Todd Warner, who is out of the Chapel Hill district. And he said something pretty interesting. He said illegal immigrants that are in this state right now, they're costing the taxpayers billions of dollars every year. Am I right on that?
Yeah. I mean, you would think with all the conversations in the Trump administration talking about efficiency in government, that if we have something that is so simple to fix, like we have folks breaking our laws and it's costing Tennessee taxpayers billions of dollars, and on top of all that, it's making their access to services worse, and we have our communities are much less safe because of it, that Republican leadership would immediately take action. But again, there's such a strong corporate rhino-driven lobby in Tennessee that has killed every illegal immigration reform bill. And so Todd Warner's idea, which I think is pretty good, is that if you get apprehended in the state of Tennessee and they check your immigration status, and if you have a detainer, they will hold you long enough for ICE to pick you up. But if ICE does not come pick you up, they will ship you to the nearest quote-unquote sanctuary city up to 700 miles away, and then they are going to charge the federal government, and if they are not reimbursed for the expense of the transportation, then they will withhold that much money from the federal gas tax. And so we have the ability to do that in Tennessee, and I think that is a great solution. And, typically when the federal government loses money, it pays attention. It's like every other large bureaucratic organization. The money is really all they care about. And so I'm eager to see how far that gets in committee.
Yeah, I'm pretty curious about that. It's a very creative idea. I love the idea like you do. But you have mentioned before that sometimes when it comes to this issue, it's hard to get it through the legislature, even though we're apparently a super conservative majority legislature. This issue, we're not as conservative as we should be.
No, we're not. We've got lots of even members of our Hamilton County delegation that have bad illegal immigration votes, have voted to give illegal aliens professional licenses, have voted, one of them that's no longer in office, voted to against the bill that would ban sanctuary cities in Tennessee. It's been like this for a long time, and it's now starting to see the light of day. And if you look back at during COVID when we lost all our constitutional rights, put all those small businesses out of business, the legislature pretty much just stood, and the entire Hamilton County delegation just stood behind Bill Lee's coattails and let him run rampant over us. Well, it is my hope, since nobody ever stands up for their branch of government, that if Trump's going to lead the way, that they'll all fall in line and feel a lot more pressure this time around to do something about this, because the national dialogue has changed. They can't just keep pointing to Joe Biden and saying, oh, it's just a federal issue. We've got to take charge of this issue at the state level. It's our leadership's responsibility.
So, on that note, do you think this bill has any chance?
Yeah, I do. It's hard. I think this would be one that's hard to vote against. And one thing that I have seen, and I think that leadership is starting to see, and these people in committees are starting to see, that the most damning thing that can be hung on your record these days is appearing to be, or actually being, soft on illegal immigration in Tennessee. And so if somebody wants to do that in exchange for some PAC money, which most of them have in the past, fine, but you can only rack up so many of those votes before you become remarkably vulnerable to a primary challenge. And I hope that motivates some of these politicians that have heretofore failed to vote with their constituents, but instead decided to, run with the corporations.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis, he is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Read that story at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Another bill I wanted to get your opinion on was this bill put forward by Tennessee State Representative Elaine Davis, and this would cut the state grocery tax. What do you think about this?
Yeah, we have a 4% state grocery tax on food and food ingredients, and she is looking to repeal that as of July 1st, 2025. There are only 13 states that have that. Now, we put in this article, which I think may be not exactly right, there's a combined state and local taxes reaching as high as 6.75, and maybe if I check my grocery bill tax, it would be different. But, I've seen sales tax in Hamilton County almost at 10% on various items. Maybe groceries are lower. But just that 3-month grocery tax holiday that Bill Lee passed, I think, to probably earn some favor back in 2022 as folks figured out that all this COVID stuff was a mismanagement debacle, cost the state $288 million in revenue. And so as our population has grown and will grow, you have to assume that if they enacted that it would be somewhere around the $1 to $1.2 billion shortfall in revenue for the state. But, I'm sure there are other ways they can make it up, and I'm always for a tax cut.
Well, yeah, and most states don't have, the grocery tax. Tennessee is only one of 13 states that still taxes food and groceries. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but we don't have a state income tax. Well, Florida doesn't have a state income tax, and they also don't tax groceries. So I tend to be with you on this or other ways to make up that revenue shortfall, but what do you think of the chances of this passing?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what groups will come out. We're about to do an article here recently. One of a member sent me some of this. I get leads from members that are conservative, and they sent me this big, huge list of taxpayer-funded lobbyists that are up in Nashville that we pay for their salaries so they can go and, for the most part, push against legislation that's in the public's interest, because it might hurt the bureaucracy, it might hurt the government employee, as if one exists to serve the other and not the other way around.
Exactly.
So I'm sure there are many government agencies, departments that may or may not get the tax sent directly to them or some allotment of it. As this proceeds, we will see more of that. Some things just go into the general fund. Other things are earmarked for particular agencies. And so if there are earmarks, you better believe they'll be out with the knives in Cordell Hull up in Nashville. But if there's not too many people suckling at that particular teat, it may be able to go on. And so I hope it does.
Speaking of Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative, and you also highlighted this on your website, Hamilton County GOP Christmas Party. It's coming up on December 17th.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you're listening to Yaffee, you care about politics and you care about local and state politics, which puts you in a very small minority of people. And so one important aspect of being involved is your Hamilton County Republican Party. It serves a number of functions. We don't have time to get into all those right now, but it's going to be at St. John's on December 17th at 6 p.m. It's $25 in advance or $30 at the door. You can just type in HCGOP, and that's Hamilton County Grand Old Party.com. You can pay there, and you can also RSVP by emailing that exact same domain. It's just HCGOP at HCGOP.com. Or you can call 423-266-9351. In radio, you always say it twice, right? Yeah. 423-266-9351 and RSVP there, and they'll help you figure out how to pay for it.
Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Really appreciate you coming on. I know a couple weeks will be Christmas, so I won't talk to you, but I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week, and then hope you have a Merry Christmas.
You too, man.